sitting here in my luxurious swank penthouse office in the heart of beautiful Times Square, and it's a typical day here. I haven't made a quarter the whole day, and now I'm doing this. There's Bill Cosby, dropped in here last month. Gave them their first TV exposure.
People like Bill Cosby and Barbra Streisand. And
I gave the first exposure to Bill Cosby, Barbra Streisand.
Barbara calls you regularly.
Well, calls once in a while. I gave the first exposure to Barbara, to Bette Midler, to Jodie Fritz, to, let me just think now, Woody Allen, Tiny Tim, Al Pacino, Bruce Springsteen,
right.
Michael Jackson with the Jackson Family 5 times, and
I think you had told me at one time Al Pacino was not giving interviews to anyone, and he had done an interview with you.
His first one in 25 years with me, right here in this, no, in his apartment. I went to his apartment that day to photograph it. But I've got the pleasure of giving the first exposure to Eddie Murphy, the New Kids on the Block, Garth Brooks, and many, many more along those lines. Most of them don't come back. I symbolize to most of them the times that they were broke, and you know, it's a little sad, but that's human nature. They don't want to be reminded of the times they were broke. So, I had Charlie Mingus on many times. I had Charlie Bird. I had Max Roach. I had Dizzy Gillespie. I mean, anybody in jazz who played Art Farmer. Anybody, Miles Davis at least 4 times. Anybody who's been popular in the last 30 years in jazz. And in the more contemporary field, I had Gene Krupa, Artie Shaw. Like, do I say contemporary? I had John Lennon. Had Sammy Kaye, as in Swing and Sway with Sammy Kaye. And that's the book called Swing and Sway with Joe Franklin, Up Late with Joe Franklin, which is published by Scribner, a division of Simon & Schuster. It's a pretty good seller, they tell me. The first time I saw Billy Crystal do me, I said, one of us is lousy. In fact, he wrote a book that his first acting lesson was pretending to be sick when he was a kid so he could stay home and watch the Joe Franklin show, because I used to show the funny old movies, Laurel and Hardy and Slapstick and Buster Keaton, and that sort of motivated him to want to be a comedian. So that's he dedicated a book called Absolutely Marvelous to me. I mean, who did they do on Saturday Night Live? For 5 years they did Howard Cosell, President Reagan, Frank Sinatra, Mike Wallace, Fernando Lamas, and Joe Franklin. So they were in good company, right, Miss Fritz?
That's right.
Which do you prefer, television or radio?
I would say radio. More at ease, don't have to shave, don't have to worry about getting heavy. And you can cuddle up to the microphone and get more intimate and cozier.
What are some of the best moments that you've had on your show, on
well,
Joe Franklin shows?
5 presidents of the United States, Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, Nixon, Bill Clinton several times, but never was president yet. My show with Bing Crosby, I always worshiped Bing Crosby. I thought of Bing as kind of a always mechanically reproduced. I thought of Bing always being on records, on movies, on television, on video, on radio. But when Bing came walking toward me, flesh and blood, that day, I got that knot in my stomach. You know, that was probably my highlight show out of 300,000 interviews, right? 28,000 episodes of the Joe Franklin TV show, listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest running TV show of all time. I think the Bing Crosby show was my highlight, but I've got a million wonderful memories.
Joe, what is the secret of longevity in your field where the mortality rate is so staggering?
It's another great thought. I would say the main thing is sincerity. Sincerity. Once you learn to fake that, then you got it made. I think that part of my persona was that I never took myself seriously. My whole life was tongue-in-cheek. I mean, people who do a takeoff on the Joe Franklin show and do a spoof on me, do a satire on me, including Billy Crystal, they were doing a satire on a satire. Because I was kidding the whole world. I was putting the whole world on. I would say the main thing is to be real. I've always felt I was real. I felt I was organic. I felt I was from the bones. I was never slick and official. I didn't rehearse. I always felt it's like going to dinner at a restaurant. You don't rehearse your dialogue before the meal. You just let it flow spontaneously.